Landers, California. April 1957. An eclectic group of several hundred travelers descend upon the Mojave Desert to gather at Giant Rock. It is here that George Van Tassel holds his annual interplanetary spacecraft convention. And while there are no paved roads or facilities of any kind, it has attracted enough attention to garner a feature in Life magazine.
So George has the idea he's going to do the first intergalactic spaceship convention. A couple of hundred people show up. It's a beautiful event. 2 years later, there's 11,000 people there.
The 1950s and 1960s, Giant Rock ended up being the nexus of the most highly attended UFO conferences that has ever happened in the United States.
The Giant Rock Convention was largely responsible for fueling interest in the UFO phenomenon. But for George Van Tassel, it served a more important purpose.
George goes on to give these conventions for 23 years, collects donations, and uses that as a way to help fund the dome.
Van Tassel claimed that the extraterrestrials that had communicated with him at Giant Rock gave him instructions for building a machine that could rejuvenate cells in the human body to extend life, perhaps indefinitely.
At the peak of the Giant Rock spacecraft convention attendance, he gets an architect to draw up the plans for this vision that he has, this vision of a white dome in the desert that he's going to build near Giant Rock. And in 1958, they break ground and they begin work.
While many in the mainstream scientific community paid little attention to Van Tassel's project, some believe he was a visionary on the level of Nikola Tesla, who also claimed to be in contact with alien entities.
George Van Tassel was very clearly influenced by Nikola Tesla, a Serbian-American researcher known throughout the world as a genius. Contributed so much to science and electricity and innovation.
Nikola Tesla published an article in 1898, and Tesla states in his article, when you're exposed to high voltage for a short period, say 15 minutes or less, you get beneficial effects. Tesla was an inspiration for rejuvenation, and this is what George Van Tassel was very attuned to. And in fact, Tesla announced that he had been receiving radio waves from extraterrestrials, specifically messages from Martians. So this is very similar to George's experiences, and both of them were interested in the effect of high voltage on humans.
Both men were derided by the scientific community for their claims of alien contact. But today, it is well known that electromagnetic waves have a number of beneficial effects on the human body, including nerve regeneration, wound healing, pain management, and even treating diabetes. And like Nikola Tesla, George Van Tassel did attract the attention of at least one government organization during his lifetime, the FBI.
The FBI's involvement with George Van Tassel, which was considerable, started in the 1950s. The feds were interested in the technology that George was working with and uncovering at the Integratron.
Declassified FBI documents confirm the Bureau did, in fact, conduct surveillance on many of Van Tassel's speeches and presentations for years.
He was definitely monitored by the FBI. They were aware of what he was doing out in the desert. If you go back into the early 50s to the early 60s, that was the high point around the world of people seeing extraterrestrial craft.
During this time of increased UFO activity in the late 1950s and early 60s, Van Tassel finally had the resources necessary to begin constructing the Integratron. It is a circular plan, two-story hemispherical umbrella dome structure, 43 feet in diameter and 33 feet tall, designed to facilitate cell rejuvenation by means of manipulation of electromagnetic waves.
Let's talk about this picture.
This is a picture of the machine we're building down there.
This structure is actually up. We're working now on the parts on the equipment that operate it. This rim around here has armatures 57 feet in diameter, which will be better than 4 times bigger than the biggest armatures ever made before.
The incredible thing about the construction is there are no nails. Every piece is fit together, all the wood, it's formed, it's shaped. There's a little glue, and then there's the fiberglass shell.
Construction of the building was completed in 1960. But Van Tassel would manufacture the technology to power it himself. Over the next 2 decades, he worked on the apparatus to achieve his goal of cell rejuvenation through the controlled manipulation of electromagnetic waves.
Because it's all built of wood, it's unable to conduct electricity back to the Earth. And so there's simply this kind of swarm of electromagnetic energy within the vessel that essentially can't get out. And so, in theory, your cells, which are also electrical impulses within them, may be rejuvenated and recharged so that their electrical component is not fading away as you get older.